Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks, and this is a tutorial for my latest project which I've called my Winter Sunshine Scarf. Now obviously this is a square and you can use that for a blanket using the same techniques that I've shown you. You can use it for anything, the only limit is your imagination. If you can use it for wearables, anything you want, but this is around 9 squares and I'm showing you inside out. Honestly, whoever said I was professional? So yeah, this is my square. Now up until now I've not really done that many chunky projects, sorry, and just lately I've been really into the chunky yarns, and I've just done some gorgeous baby booties that are made with the JC Brett Flutterby, and now I'm going to do this scarf, and well, this yarn is absolutely amazing, and the details of the yarn are in the description box below and where you can get them and the voucher code for them. But this is the square that I'm going to show you how to do today. It's very easy to make, and with the yarn that I've used, they come in 200-gram balls. Now this is one that's very similar in its looks to that really lovely Poundland yarn that I've always loved, the one that's called Bright Pinks or something. Now it's very similar to look at, but the similarities end there. This is absolutely dreamy soft, and there are the machine wash instructions. It's really, really lovely, and they're 200-gram balls of chunky. So out of this whole ball, I made that whole scarf plus this one, and I still had yarn left over, and also there was some where I was practicing along the way and just discarded. So it did actually go the whole project with one ball. And the other yarn that I used was this one, which is a King Cole ultra soft chunky, and I've largely ignored this yarn. I've had it in my shop and in my stash for quite some time, and I've just not really used it, but since I started to work with it, I'm amazed by it. It is ultra soft. That's a very good name for it. It is absolutely beautiful, 100% premium acrylic, and that is how much I had left from this project. Now obviously you can edge it in any colour you want. Black would really make it pop, but for Winter Sunshine I wanted to make it in kind of bright, cheerful colours, and plus for the purposes of the tutorial it's easier to show you white. Okay, so if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'm just going to clear all this away and we'll get started, and I'll tell you about the materials you need. Okay, so for this tutorial I'm using a 6.5mm crochet hook and some darning needles, and obviously a pair of scissors, and all of those you can find as well at hobbyrocks.co.uk along with the yarn, and as I said, the details are all in the box below. Okay, so we're going to start with a slip knot, and you can do that however you normally would, and I'm going to work over the tail so I don't need to leave a long one. And for the start we're going to make 4 chain. And then we're going to make a ring by slip stitching into our first chain. Now I'm going to assume you know how to make all the stitches that I'm going to show you, so I won't do them really slowly. And I'm going to chain 3 now, because for my stitches I'm going to be using a UK treble, which is a double crochet in the US. And I usually chain 2 for that, and I want a space between. So I'm chaining 3. Then in the centre of this ring, which you can just about see because it is chunky, it will work its way bigger. I'm going to do my first UK treble or US double crochet and work over the tail as I go. 1 chain, and then we're going to do another one in the same space and work over the tail. And then 1 more and work over that chain. Now I'm going to show you what you need. So now we have 3 spaces and we want a total of 12. So I'm going to carry on until I'm more or less back to the start here. So you will end on the last, if you end on the last treble, UK treble, US double, I'll catch up with you when I get back to the start. Okay, so I'm all the way round. I just need to pull out some more yarn. I should have checked that before I come back to you. So the last one, quite often I make it seamless, but for this particular one, we're just going to chain one, and then we are going to slip stitch into our second chain. There's the first one, there's the second, there's the third, which is the space. We're just going to slip stitch into that one there, and we're done. So we should have 12 segments. I'm just going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so now we want to slip stitch into that space. So we're in the middle of the space, and we're going to chain 2 and do 2 UK trebles or US doubles in that same space. And the next one, the next space, we're going to do 2. And in the next space, we're going to do 3. And that's our repeat. And in the next one, 2. So we're going to repeat that, doing 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, all the way around till we get back to this one. I'll just snip that tail off because it's in the way. Careful not to snip the stitch. Okay, so now it's out the way, no more in the way stitch. So we're going to go 3 in the next one, 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 2. You should end with a 2 here. And I'll pause it now and catch up with you when I get back to this one here, which will be a 2. Okay, so now I'm back at the start again. Now you might ask why there's 3, then there's 2, then there's 3, then there's 2. And that is purely because doing 2 in each wasn't enough. Doing 3 in each was too many, and it had this effect where it would kind of go like a warped record that had been left in the sun. You know, I'm sure we all know what that was like. Anyway, so I'm just going to slip stitch into my first one. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm going to do, I could still use my, put my hook in, never mind. I'm going to do a UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US. That way it gets me in the center of this one. You can do either, it really doesn't matter, but it just makes this next stitch easier. I'm going to chain 1 and cinch it right down because I just want it to end off. I don't really want it to be a chain. And I'm going to go back in this same space and do a single crochet US, double crochet UK. I'm going to chain 2. And then at the end of my 3, I'm going to do another UK double, US single. And I'm going to chain 2. Then after my 2, I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Chain 2. I know there are 3 stitches here, but don't worry about that. Chain 2. And then in between each of these segments, I'm going to do a UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US. I'm going to do that all the way round. Okay, so I'm going to pause it, and I want you to do that all the way around, going in between your 2s and your 3s, and I'll catch up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so here I am back again. I've got my 2 chain, and there's my first one. I'm going to just slip stitch into that first UK double or US single, and now we're back here again, and I'm going to slip stitch into that chain space, the next one. And now I'm going to do half a corner, so I'm going to chain 2 and in that same space do 2 UK trebles, which are double crochets in the US. Okay, I've pulled out yarn. I don't know why it's not flowing. Okay, so in my next space, remember this is half a corner. In the next 2 spaces, I'm going to put 3 UK trebles or US doubles in each one, like you would if it were a granny square. Just the same. No chains in between. Just 3 in there and 3 in the next. Now we're at the corner and we're going to do 3. And just as if it were a normal granny square, 1 chain and another 3 in the same space. Got a little knot appeared. Just bear with me a second. That's gone. Okay, so I've done 1. Now I'm going to do the other 2 of my corner. Okay, so if we look at it, now we're turning our circle into a square. Now, I know that it's still a little rounded, but that will work itself out anyway. In other previous squares like this, I've made these half trebles, which is half doubles in the US. You can do that if you really hate the fact that it has a bit of a roundness to it, but as you go on, it does work its way out. So just I didn't bother. So now I've done my corner, and I'm going to, in the next 2 spaces, just do 3. So we're making the side. Oops, does help if you take the yarn with you. I blame the angle that I'm working at. And in the next one, we're going to do 3. And now we're back at the next corner, so we're going to do our corner stitches. Okay, so in the next 2, you've guessed it, we're going to do 3 in the next one, 3 in the next one, then a corner, and then 3 in the next one, 3 in the next one. And I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when we come to this part and we finish off our corner. Okay, so I'm all the way back. Now this is half a corner. We're going to finish that off by making our last 3. And this one is a mismatched corner in terms of the way the yarn works out. So if you wanted to manipulate this yarn so that it was the same, then you could do, but I've just let it become random. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of our 2 chain, which is there. Let's get it in. I made that one a little tight. Again, if you wanted to, you could do the slip stitch, or you could do the UK double crochet or a single in the US, just to make that space for you a little bigger. And I'm going to chain 2, and in that same space between our 2 sets of 3, I'm going to do 1 more UK treble or US double. Now this row is 1 in each stitch, so don't forget the first one which you've slip stitched into. Sometimes it kind of hides a little bit from you and you have to kind of find it. And then just 1 in every single stitch all the way along until we get to the corner. Nice and simple, just 1 in each one. Okay, I'm going to pause it. I'll catch up with you when I get to the corner. Okay, so now I'm at the corner. I've gone into my last one of the 3 below, and I'm at the space, so I'm going to do 3 in that space. So I'm no longer doing a corner like a granny square, but like I'm going round the corner on a straight. Now you'll find that that might push over a little bit, so in order to get the first one you might need to pull it over. If you ever find it's a little tight, especially on the beginning kind of 4 chain, making your 12 segments, you just pull it over a little bit, and that kind of puts that right. So I'm just going to stop for a second and show you, and all you've got to do is kind of pull that a little bit. It still does bow just slightly, but that's fine, it doesn't matter. It's easily maneuverable now to make it into a perfect square. So I'm going to go along here, and when I get to the corner, I'm going to put 3 in there, making sure to go in the first one, and I'm going to work my way along here doing 1 in each, 3 in this corner, and then making sure I go in the first all the way along here. And I'll show you what to do when we get back to this part here. Okay, so I'm now back. I've done my very last one, and I'm back at my corner. I only did 2 there, so I'm going to finish it off with my 3rd. And then I'm just going to slip stitch. I'm going to try and slip stitch into just the top 2, as if, you know, it's a stitch. Doesn't really matter if you can't do that, just as long as you slip stitch into that one. And I'm going to end off. Okay, so to end off, I'm just going to do a chain, cinch it right down and pull it through. So now you can just pull this into a square shape, and if you didn't want a border, if you didn't want to do borders, you can just sew them from this point on. But I'm going to put a white border, so I'm just going to pause it for a second while I put this yarn away and get the next one ready. Okay, so I'm going to join at a different corner, right in the center, which is this one here. And I'm going to join my white, and you can join it however you want. Some people like to just change color, but I feel that you get a much cleaner kind of join. I didn't need to leave that much of a tail, but never mind. You just get, I think it's a little cleaner just to start one colour somewhere else and finish another somewhere else. If you're working a garment, you've got no choice, but when it comes to something like this, you do. So I'm just going to, in this corner, I'm going to do 2 UK half trebles, which are half double crochets in the US. And now I'm going to work over my tail and go in each one of these stitches all the way along until I get to the corner. And the reason that I chose the half treble, or half double as it's called across the pond, is because when you sew them, oops daisy, didn't want to do that. When you sew them together, I wanted to have a nice little section between, and I feel that if you do a UK double, which is a single crochet across the pond, then that is a very, very thin kind of border between. But if that is, you know, if you think that would look nicer, then by all means you can do that. But I wanted a bit more of a gap, I guess you could say, like a more spacious kind of border between. But it's completely up to you. And I'm going to do this until I get to the next corner, which I'm almost there. So now you need to locate the middle stitch, which there's your first. It's always hard to see which one it is, but I believe it's that one. If you want, if you find it hard, then you could always, as soon as you've done your that stitch on the previous round, you could put a stitch marker in to denote it. But it is a bit of a, sometimes hard to spot. So now I'm just going to go round. I've done 3 in that corner one, and I'm going to go round, and that's all I'm going to do is 1 in each stitch, 3 in the corner, 1 in each stitch, 3 in the corner, until I get back to this one and I complete my corner. I'll come back to you when we get to that point. Okay, so I'm more or less back to the start. I've got 1 more to do there, and then I'm going to do my 3rd of my corner, slip stitch into the top of this 2 chain, and I'm done. Now as you can see, you only have to pull it a little bit and it's nice and square. So you've got a choice to make now, and that is how you want to join it, and whether you want to leave a really long tail and use this to sew it up, or whether you want to end off, sew that in and make a new piece to sew it in. So I've done various videos on how to sew up the invisible join. So I'm going to leave a really long tail because I don't think I've done it that way. And I'm going to show you how we do that. So I'm going to cinch my chain, pull that through, and there we are. We're in the center of our corner. So we're going to get our corresponding square. Come over really hot. Just bear with me. I need to put on my aircon. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. We've got this weekend, we have a bit of an Indian summer. And it's gone, the temperature's gone right up again. And when it's, although it's a nice day, when it's gone cold or cooler, and then suddenly you've got a hot day, that can be a little off-putting. So I'm just going to threadle my darning needle, and I've got the largest eye needle out of my pack. So this is where we're going to be working, along this edge. There's your front. We're going to work along this edge. So we need both backs facing each other. So we've got the right side, the right side. Now we're going, I know that I've shown you how to do this on my other videos. Let's go down a little bit. And I've used a whole new piece. But because we're at the beginning, I'm going to go back on myself and just come up through the next stitch on that first one. Gets rid of that little knot and puts me in the right place. So on this one, I need to find my center, which is, I'll choose a different one there because that's the knot and it's hard for you to see. So there's my 3, and I'm just going to go in the center one and come up through the next one. Okay, and then that's the corresponding stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go back in that same one, and I'm going to come up through the next one. So it's like lacing a pair of sneakers or trainers, as they call them in this country. And I'm going to do the same over the other side, up through the same one. So I'm going to go into the same one and up through the next one. Remember, we're working along that edge. And then I'm going to do the same over the other side. And this is a technique that I've kind of adapted from knitting. I believe it's a mattress stitch in knitting. So there you are. This is what it looks like. And you've got this quite long lace up. And now we just need to pull on it. And when you have 2 ends, it's so much easier to pull on, but you can work on it and pull on it and get it tight even if you just use the tail. But don't go too pulley or you'll end up with a dip, and then you've got to try and get rid of that on your next round. Okay, so as you can see, we came out of this one and we're going to go back into that one and out the other one. Try not to catch any other parts, and then in and up through the next one. And we're going to do that every now and then. We're going to stop and give it a pull to tighten it up. Don't leave it too long. It's easier to work on smaller segments. Okay, so I'm going to pull that one, and then holding on to this part that's already done, I'm just going to give it a tug, and it brings it together in a nice little snug way, and you end up with this little kind of ridge line appearing, which is obviously this stitch here and this stitch here. Okay, so I'm going to go back into this one and up through that one, which is the corresponding, and I'm going to do that all the way along, sewing them together through those side segments. So we're not going through this, we're going through this side and just going up all the way along. Of course, if you didn't want to use this sewing method, you can just use your favourite joining method, whichever that is. And you don't have to do this way, but I wanted to show you how easy it is to get that invisible join, because this is perfect if you're using different colours. So if you decided that you were going to make lots and lots of different colour squares and you wanted to join them in an invisible way, if you use at least just one of the colours of those squares, so if this was a blue square, this was a yellow, you could use either blue or yellow to do this and it would be invisible, more or less. I can't say it's absolutely, it is obviously with the same colour, but it's, you see just a tiny fraction, but not enough to make you feel like, oh look, somebody has used the wrong yarn to sew this up. It's not that at all. It just hardly notices. It's barely there. So we just continue doing that all the way along and stopping every now and then to give it that little pull. That's why you need to leave a nice long tail though. And it gets this lovely neat join, which some people do it slightly different, but I think as long as you've got this nice edge like you do in knitting, you might as well make use of it. And that's not coming up through there easily. Why is that? Don't know. Just being obstinate. Okay, and we're going to carry on till we get to the end. Give that a little tug. Don't have to do it mega tight. You don't want it to bunch. Don't want to get anything in a bunch, do you, really? That's just me being flippant. Okay, so we're getting to the corner. Okay, and here we are. So when we get to the corner, we want to make sure, let's pull that snug. We want to make sure that we are on the same part. So we're on the middle stitch of our corner. So I've got one more to do. Actually on this one I have obviously come adrift somehow. So I'm going to go over the same one. It's ever so easy to correct. Okay, and then I'm going to go up through the last one on this side, give it a snug little pull, and now we want to join it to this one here so that it doesn't have that dip. Okay, so when we do our final sewing, we don't want it to be too tight that I'm just going to make us a loop like that, and then I'm going to come up through that loop and give it a knot. So now it should be nice and loose and ready for when we come along and do our border. Don't worry about the messy bit there. You won't even see it once you put your border on. So we're kind of just joining these two squares together. So now all you need to do is finish off that little bit there. If you want to do another little knot, and then bury your yarn in like this. You just kind of work your way down. So as long as you're not seeing it through the other side, which you won't if you're very careful. And then you just go along burying your tail. And then you can come back on yourself, burying your tail again through there. And if you want, you can just come back again on yourself. If I split that yarn, at least it will get buried inside it, like that. Let me just pull that through. And what I like to do is I like to tug it a little bit and then cut it. So that end will just disappear inside there. So that's how I've joined them. It's a nice neat join. I know this end doesn't look particularly neat, but it will be when you sew up, because obviously that will bunch together like that. The start is obviously neater than the end, but it works out really well when you sew them together. So with my scarf then, let's move that out the way a moment. What I did was I did one row around the outside of UK double crochets or single crochets in the US. And then if I had a dip, I did a half treble in that dip just to pull it up. So I've learnt though how not to make the dips if I can avoid it. So then once I'd done that, I just used my main colour again and did a half treble, half double US all the way around 3 in the corner to give it that little border of colour, which I think sets it off. And that is all I've done. So I don't think you really need me to show you how to do that. Just one round of using the whole thing, just the whole thing, go all the way around with UK double crochets, which is a single in the US, and you won't need that recovery in that dip there. I don't think you will in this one either. It's once you kind of start doing your stitches, they'll be nice and together, and it's not much of a dip there at all. So you just go round the outside, and then you can finish it off with the row of half trebles with this yarn, or any way you like. So that's it. And you can make this into a blanket, a scarf, anything you want. I hope you like the square. It's one of my new favourites. And don't forget, in the description box below you can find details on all the products available. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.